Hey guys, and welcome back to Z3 Cubing. Today I'm going to be checking out a brand new set of puzzles called the Skewb Mixup. So I've just gotten my hands on a new set of non-WCA puzzles from MoFang JiaoShi, which is part of MoYu. They seem to be under the MeiLong brand name, and they're called the Skewb Mixup I, the Skewb Mixup II, and you guessed it, the Skewb Mixup III. Now I believe these were released a couple months ago now, but ever since I first saw them on sale, I knew that I had to get them because they just look so cool. Of course, they are based on the Skewb, which is one of my favorite puzzles, and I think the idea is that when you turn them halfway, they have these cool circular pieces that kind of mix up and jumble in between the pieces. You can kind of get an idea of what I mean on the packaging right here. They're Skewbs, but with extra little tiny mix-up pieces in between. And of course, they have progressively more pieces as you go up the chain. So let's go ahead and open these puzzles up. All three versions actually come in at just $8, which I think is a really good price for a fun non-WCA puzzle with lots of little intricate pieces. In fact, $8 is a pretty good price for a decent normal Skewb in the first place. So if you decide you want to buy any or all of these puzzles, be sure and check out the links in the video description to thecubicle.com and use discount code Z3Cubing for 5% off your order. Anyway, on to the puzzles. So all three versions seem to look the same from the outside, except for the fact that the 1 has one of these little inner pieces, the 2 has 2 of these inner pieces, and the 3 has all 3 inner pieces. So let's set the bigger ones off to the side for the minute and first take a look at the most basic one. So my first impressions just holding it in my hands is it feels a little bit heavy and a little bit big compared to a normal Skewb. So here is a little size comparison with a Skewb or 3x3. Other than that though, I mean, it's just a normal stickerless finish, normal stickerless colors, and all around it just looks and feels like a normal Skewb, other than of course the extra pieces. So that being said, what I want to do first is just try out the performance like a normal Skewb. So let's do some sledgehammers here. And yeah, it actually seems to turn pretty well. The one thing though is that the corner cutting doesn't seem to be great. So forwards is pretty good. But reverse corner cutting isn't going to be that great just because all the pieces are so squared off. Compare that to a normal Skewb where you have these big rounded pieces that allow for really easy corner cutting. And so that just means you have to turn a little bit more precisely. One more thing that I do notice compared to a normal Skewb is that there are no magnets or ball bearings or anything, so you don't have that nice click into place after every turn. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about the turning for now, so let's get on to what you've all been waiting for, the mix-up part of the Skewb Mixup. So we can go ahead and turn the Skewb halfway like this, and then it just spins around like that. So you have to turn it a whole 180 degrees on this version. And then we just have these 2 random pieces of these 2 Skewb centers just swapped. That is so weird. I mean, the entire rest of the puzzle is solved. We just have these 2 random chunks missing. We can just keep going around the puzzle, mixing up all these random chunks of center pieces without actually mixing up the Skewb at all. Like everything is solved except the centers. That's so weird. So let's actually scramble up the Skewb now. Maybe make it a little bit more crazy. Make sure and keep adding in some center swapping moves here and there. And yeah, this thing looks ridiculous. I can see why it's called a Skewb Mixup because this is the most mixed up I have ever seen a Skewb look. And one more here. I think that is good and scrambled up. So what I want to do right now is just try and solve this on camera. I don't think this one will be too difficult. So let's go ahead and get started. I think we want to just get these center pieces kind of built, like get all these white pieces all together like this. I think that's probably the best first step that we can do. So I'm not sure how to get this one over there. And yeah, I'm having to get a little bit creative here with figuring out what moves I can do so that I can get these pieces in a location where I can make those centers. Yeah, I'm actually a little bit stuck on this last one because I have to have it like right here in order to swap it into the right place, but it's impossible to rotate a Skewb center by 90 degrees. If I put it over here, that's also wrong. If I do something like this, that's also wrong. So what if I like swap it with some other center? Maybe that'll make it work. And then, oh, this way I can do it because I can do that and then I can get it in. So sometimes I guess you have to do multiple swaps to get it into the right spot. So that's really interesting. Now moving on, I guess to the blue center, it looks like we can be more efficient like this by finding swaps that actually solve both pieces at once. So maybe, oh yeah, this one right here with the yellow one, I can do that. That solves both the pieces. Another red one. There are no blues over there, but we can still do it like this. Oh, and then we can do the green one efficiently too by moving this over back here and then swapping these 2 pieces. There we go. Now we can move on maybe to the green side. This one should be pretty simple. It's always a little bit tricky to wrap your mind around how these pieces move. It's just not something I have ever really experienced. And then just this one last one. This is one of those tricky cases that I had with the white side. So I think we swap maybe it to a different side. Yeah, and then we can move it around to the back like this, and then we can finally swap it into place. So I think we're making some good progress. Let's maybe do this yellow one right here. Maybe like that. That solves both of those at once. That's good. And then just one more yellow one. That one's easy. And then all we have left is red and orange. So let's move things over to here, and then we can swap these 2 pieces. We can also swap these two pieces, and yeah, eventually you can kind of get the hang of it. Wait a minute, these last two are kind of confusing me. It's that same weird case that I've had before, where you can't directly swap them just because however you line them up, I mean, it's just impossible to get them together. So, I don't know, maybe we have to break one of the other centers that we've already made, like that, and then we can get the orange one in like this, and then maybe we can solve these last two together. Oh yeah, we can. We just have to do this, and then there we go. We got all the centers solved. And look at that. We've now reduced it back down to just a normal Skewb. So I imagine we can just solve it just like we normally would. Let's start on maybe this orange center here. I can't imagine any way that we would have any sort of weird parity or anything. So here we go. Not the greatest corner cutting like I was saying, but there we go. And now our Mixup Skewb 1 has been solved. So I actually had a lot of fun with that. I would say it definitely was a little bit more difficult than I was expecting, especially since there were some cases where you couldn't just kind of line up the piece and put it in. You actually had to do a secondary swap before you swap them into place. But yeah, it was a little bit tricky, but I figured it out. But I'm not too sure I'm going to be able to get the next two solved so easily. So that being said, let's move on to the Skewb Mixup II. This one seems like it turns just like the last, except of course we have 4 pieces instead of 2 every time you do a turn like this. And so that means we can spin them around 180 degrees like before, and the puzzle will act in pretty much the exact same way, but we can also spin them in increments of 90 degrees. And that just looks ridiculous. I mean, look at this. Wow, that's just weird. But it's not just that we can like cut these sections in half, we can actually keep going and get a little bit crazier. We can go ahead and move it with the white side, and now we have one green piece that's solved and one white piece that is definitely not solved. So we actually have like half of it sticking up, half of it not. It just gets weirder and weirder. And so now instead of just having to put all these extra pieces into the right place, we now have to match up these little pairs of 2 of them before putting them into the right place. And I imagine this one is going to be at least like twice as hard as the last one because of this. And yeah, before long, this is what things start to look like. This is just ridiculous. I thought the last one looked really mixed up. This is just, I mean, there's pieces sticking out of the puzzle. Now, I guess let's just go ahead and begin with the white side again. Now, while I was scrambling this, I think I did have a bit of an idea of how I might go about solving the first few pieces. I think the key is having a piece that's the right color on the right side, but not flat like this. So this white piece is perfect because it's on the right side, it's white on white, but it's oriented wrong. It's kind of sticking up like this. So what I can do is find a piece that matches up with it like this, and then I can just spin it like that, and there we go. Now we can do the same thing for this piece. We just got to take another one that'll fit and kind of move it around the cube until it lines up like that, and there we go, that one's in. We can do the same thing over here. We just got to find the piece that will go into that slot. This one doesn't quite line up, so we have to do the weird trick where we move it to a different side first, like this, and then eventually we can move it around the cube and it will line up like this. There we go. Now the last one will be a little bit trickier because it's not already sticking up, but I think what we can do is just make it stick up like that, and then we can go around the cube and find the other piece. This one's also not sticking up, so we can make it. Hey, we solved some yellow ones too, that's nice. And then we just move them next to each other like this, and there we go. Now our white side is complete, and we can go ahead and repeat on the other sides. It's gonna get a little bit repetitive, so I'll just fast forward this part. Hopefully the techniques that I've learned so far will work and I don't get stuck anywhere. So I solved all the centers. Not. It looks like solving the first 5 doesn't necessarily imply that you've solved the last one. So, I mean, let's see what we can do. I guess we just kind of have to mess up one of these other ones to solve the last one. Okay, I admit I'm stuck on these last 2 and I have no idea what to do. So I guess we'll just go ahead and solve the rest of the Skewb. That was a pretty easy case there. And there we go. We were mostly successful at solving the Skewb Mixup II, except for these 2 little pieces here. It's kind of like this weird little parody case. I just could not figure out how to do it. I'll have to mess around with it a little bit later. But I can say that it was a ton of fun to solve up to this point, probably even more so than the first one, and like I expected, quite a bit more challenging. I really enjoyed it, and I'll probably be solving this one again soon just for fun, or to fix those last 2 pieces. Anyway, moving on, of course, to the Skewb Mixup III. This one is the most complicated of them all. The turning is a little bit more bumpy than the last 2, which makes sense because there's a lot more pieces, and I feel like I have to be a little bit more careful with it, but overall it's not that bad. So let's go ahead and try out the crazy jumbling mix-up moves on this one. Of course, you can still do 180 degrees like that, but then you have increments of 60 degrees instead on this one. So right off the bat, it looks pretty similar to the last one being mixed up, but I imagine once we involve 3 or more colors, yeah, it just starts to get ridiculous. So let's go ahead and scramble this cube up completely and do all of these crazy jumbling mix-up moves that we can, and just see how crazy this puzzle can get. And wow. I have no words to describe this. This thing is just chaotic and ridiculous and probably going to be pretty difficult to solve. Unfortunately though, we are about out of time for this video, so I think I'm going to have to take on this challenge on my own. I do expect it to be quite the challenge though. I mean, if this one were twice as challenging as this one, I expect this one to be at least twice as challenging again. I guess the current state of these three cubes kind of demonstrates how hard they are. Solved, mostly solved, totally scrambled. But yeah, I've had a ton of fun even in my short time with these three puzzles, and I imagine I'm going to be spending a lot more time on some of these in the future. I think it's just really cool that they gave a purpose to turning a cube halfway. In a state that normally does absolutely nothing, they added a whole new feature to the cube. But yeah, I would definitely recommend these three puzzles for anyone who wants a fun, interesting, unique challenge of a non-WCA puzzle. This one, if you want something a little bit easier, if you want something crazy hard, go with this one, or maybe something in the middle. Again, they're called the Skewb Mixup 1, 2, and 3, and they're each just $8 at thecubicle.com, link in the description, and use discount code Z3Cubing for 5% off your order. But yeah, I really hope you all enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments what other kind of crazy cubes like this you want me to check out in the future. And that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys next time.